Steelers Nation, welcome to episode 48 of the Steeler Culture Podcast. We are the SteelTwins, and we got some news as it pertains to the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. More cuts have happened. The Steelers have released their center, Mason Cole.
Baby. Mason Cole is gone. He was our starting center for the past 2 years, replacing Kendrick Green, who the Steelers selected to try to replace Marquise Pouncey. We all know how that turned out.
And we're still talking about the need for the Steelers having to address center, and you can tell by the sign above, which, by the way, is staying until the draft.
Draft night.
We need to draft a center. Center is undoubtedly our biggest need on this team.
Now with Mason Cole released, which saves the Steelers a little bit over $4 million in cap space, so they create more cap getting rid of Mason Cole. Plus, Mason Cole just wasn't a good starting center in general. Center is now at the top of the list as the number one priority position for the Steelers to get.
Not just center, but today we're going to be discussing the Steelers' biggest needs.
Indeed.
As free agency is just around the corner. The new league year is just around the corner in just a little over 2 weeks from now. So it's exciting. It's starting to get crunch time for a bunch of these free agents from a bunch of these teams, and the Steelers are still wasting no time in making moves to create some cap space and to address certain needs, man. Something you like to see. They've already cut Mitch. They've cut Chucks. They've cut Presley Harvin. Now you could add center Mason Cole to that list. Mason Cole, thank you, but goodbye. Good riddance. Just did not work out. He was never supposed to be the long-term solution at center. Never was. He was a journeyman before he came into Pittsburgh. He had a good stint with the Vikings up until he signed with us. But, you know, after a solid first year, I would say,
First year wasn't bad. Second year was definitely on the decline, and it showcased that he just was not the guy long-term at the position.
It was a massive regression. Snap issues. He was very inconsistent in blocking, not very good in protection. It's just, we needed a new center. We know we need a new center.
Yeah.
I think every Steelers fan on the planet was pressing that even if Mason Cole was still on the team, you got to get a center. You have to draft a center. Now he is officially off this team, and the Steelers are prioritizing center. Thank God. So they are revamping the O-line. They've already cut Chucks. Now you can add Mason Cole to the mix. So two of our biggest needs, those two former starters are now gone.
Yeah.
Which gives you every indication that, hey, this is what the Steelers are prioritizing. This is what they're looking at mostly heading into the offseason, which is a very good thing. But Mason Cole's cut, I don't think we have any other center on the roster right now. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You could consider Nate Herbig. He's that guard center hybrid type of guy. You could consider him because he had prior experience at center when he was with the Eagles and the Jets. Right. But, I don't think you would really want to go into the offseason or training camp as him, the legitimate true center.
No, because we've had enough of these guard center hybrids.
Yeah,
it's just they're terrible experiments. I get they love the versatility, they love the flexibility. They have loved that on their offensive line for a numerous amount of years, which is why we keep moving guys to their natural positions, which is why we keep talking about offensive line being an issue, center being the biggest one. But enough of these guard center hybrids, okay? Kendrick Green clearly didn't work. Mason Cole didn't work. Nate Herbig is a serviceable backup, but he's a backup.
That's what he is.
But with your discussion of heading into training camp, I don't think they're going to go into the draft without a center, without a potential backup plan.
Because and I don't see Nate Herbig being the lone guy. Now, I know they have 7th-round rookie last year, Spencer Anderson, out of Maryland. He's that versatile guy, but I think that's also too big of a gamble.
He didn't play last year.
Exactly. He redshirted his entire rookie season, and it's too big of a gamble for him to be as the second backup.
Right.
I think it would be wise for the Steelers to have Herbig continue to be the main backup for guard or center, but I think they do sign a decent enough center in free agency, but I don't think that's it for them in the offseason when it comes to center.
They have to sign a center because they can't just go into the draft without a center and then potentially miss out on one of the top three, and then you're screwed at center heading into the season.
Yeah.
So they are going to sign a center, but that should not keep the Steelers away from drafting a center. First round, second round, third round, preferably the first 2 rounds. You need to draft a center. No ifs, ands, or buts. You have to draft one. They're going to sign someone. They're going to bring in someone with years of experience, which is a good thing. He's going to compete with the rookie, I would imagine. but you need to draft a guy to be your long-term solution, okay? I think I speak for a lot of Steelers fans, and excuse my passion coming out here. I am sick and tired of passing on these top centers in the draft, which is exactly why center is still a fucking need. We passed on Creed Humphrey twice for a running back that has 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons and a tight end we don't use and is always hurt.
And quite honestly, if I'm going to admit, overrated a little bit.
A little bit. And we passed on Tyler Linderbaum for Kenny Pickett. We all know how that's turning out.
Yeah,
we could have easily ran with Mason Rudolph as a bridge guy and then drafted Linderbaum, but instead we wanted to draft Kenny Pickett, and thus we're still out of a fucking center.
Hey, listen, let it out. I'm right there with you.
I'm just saying,
that's a big fumble right there with Kevin Colbert.
Twice.
As much as we appreciate Colbert's efforts and contributions.
Listen, but he set this team back in his final years.
He did. That's what I was going to get to. He absolutely did on his way out. It sucks. Hence the Mason Cole signing.
Well, you just look. Chase Claypool, Con couldn't wait to get rid of the guy. Got JPJ out of it, right? What a phenomenal finesse.
Yeah.
Right? Kenny Pickett, not the future. Mason Cole, not the center.
No.
He passed on 2 great centers in back-to-back years. It hurt us, man. It really did. And with Omar Khan and what he's been doing in this news of Mason Cole being cut, no doubt in my mind they are targeting center first and foremost.
Yeah, Khan is trying to fix the mishaps, the mistakes that Colbert did.
Yes.
On his way out, which sucks.
It sucks, but, I think we're excited to see where he's going to lead this team.
Based off what he did last year, yeah, I'm absolutely optimistic. I'm excited, and I'm confident what Khan can do.
Yeah, I think we all should be. Obviously, the top 3 centers in the draft is Jackson Powers Johnson.
JPJ.
Who's a stud. You got Zach Frazier, who's a stud. Cedric Van Pran, who's a stud. I mean, any of those 3 guys will be long-term solutions at center. Those are the 3 top names, the 3-headed dogs that the Steelers could draft anywhere from round 1 or round 2. One of them will be a Pittsburgh Steeler. In fact, they have to be. They have to be. And if it's my personal choice, I'm going with JPJ.
I mean, he's the top dog. He's the top center.
But there are a lot of center-needy teams. And center in free agency is not very stacked. It's not.
No.
Connor Williams, Andre James, Aaron Brewer, right, former Titan. Brian Allen, who just got cut by the Rams. Lloyd Cushenberry.
Cody Whitehair, former Bears center too.
None of them are long-term solutions. They would very much be like Mason Coles all over again.
They're just fill-ins.
Just
low risk, high reward type signings, which Colbert always did.
But the Steelers should attempt to sign one because they need a center before they go into the draft.
Yeah.
They're going to need a backup. They're going to need some competition. They're going to need that insurance policy at center while still obviously drafting one early on into the draft. It's a must. But there's no doubt in my mind they're going to sign one of these guys. I know Aaron Brewer is probably the most popular name because he was a former Titan. He briefly played under what's his name?
Artie Smith. Arthur Smith.
Artie. I don't even mention
I know.
the
well,
Artie
that's his nickname now.
Listen, the Steelers and the name Artie do not mix well. So don't even get started on the OC.
And it still won't. That's just my prediction.
But Arthur Smith, yes, he briefly played under Arthur Smith in his rookie year in 2020 when he went undrafted. He started one game for the Titans, which was against the Ravens, and it was Derrick Henry's one of his best games that year. He's an undersized center. Do we really want another undersized center? But he is a ferocious run blocker, which is obviously the Steelers' bread and butter.
Yeah, it's their go-to.
So that's a decent fit. That's a decent fit, right? Connor Williams probably the top center out there. He's coming off an ACL injury.
Yeah, he's the top center free agent. You know he's going to be getting a big bag out there, but even he carries a lot of red flags with his injury concerns and just do the Steelers want to pay so much money? Although, with the cap space, with them getting more now, with the cap number that was just released a couple days ago.
Oh, a massive increase.
Yeah.
That's very good for the Steelers, by
but
the way.
do they want to throw that much money at a free agent center, especially the top one? And does Miami really want to lose their starting center as well?
I don't know. They got the money to spend. A lot of teams got a lot of money to spend, especially with the cap increase. So, I mean, Lloyd Cushenberry, he had a lot of promise coming out of LSU a couple years ago. Didn't really live up too much for the Broncos. Brian Allen has only he's only played 12 games since the Rams Super Bowl run. So, I mean, it's not a lot of greatness in that center room, which is why we still got to draft a center round 1 or 2, preferably round 1 if it's just my honest opinion. But they got to sign somebody at the same time, and there's no doubt in my mind they will.
Yeah, and that's what I expect. I don't entirely disagree. Just low insurance policy there, but this sign is up here for a reason. It's something that we're going to be vocal about, just like last year when we were vocal about them selecting left tackle.
Yep.
we're going to be as vocal, if not more vocal, about center.
Exactly. Now, the next need that the Steelers are going to have to focus on outside of center is obviously offensive tackle, preferably right tackle, because there's no reason Broderick Jones should be starting at right tackle. I don't care if he is a demon in the run blocking. I don't care if that is a scheme fit for the Steelers, right? But that's not his natural position. He started the last year and a half for Georgia, allowing 0 sacks for back-to-back Georgia champions at left tackle. Don't put him at right. I think we all agree, switching back to left, go get a right tackle. Now, my hope is they go out and snag one of the top right tackles in free agency. That would absolutely fill that need, add a lot of flexibility. The tackle class is very stacked in the draft.
Oh, my God, is it deep.
But the value drops from day 1 to day 2. What I'm getting is if you draft a tackle day 2, they're not day 1 starters. They are developments, which means Dan Moore would have to start again. Do we want to go through that again?
I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers were to, because they went 3 years with Dan Moore.
Listen, I wouldn't be surprised either. In fact, I'm expecting it. I don't understand.
I'm not all for it. Listen, I'm not all for it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm expecting because, one, that's what Tomlin and the Steelers do. They never give up on him, especially when it comes to Dan Moore. They're obsessed with Dan Moore as the left tackle. They think he's the guy when the past 3 years he has shown that he is not the guy.
No, I would never understand their love affair, their denial in Dan Moore. But we are anticipating Dan Moore to start at least the first little bit before they put in what we hope is a rookie offensive tackle. Unless they sign someone, then they would have to move Broderick to left and then start their free agent right tackle. That's what we're hoping. That is our biggest hope, is their biggest splash in free agency is a right tackle. There's a lot of names out there. They got the money to do so.
They do.
They made offensive line moves the past couple years in free agency. Mason Cole, James Daniels, Isaac Seumalo, Nate Herbig. You got to get a tackle. You just have to. 100%. The third biggest need, in my opinion, and we've been vocal about this ever since the offseason began, is quarterback. We need a quarterback.
No doubt about it.
We're not going to succeed in this league without a true quarterback. We're hoping Mason comes back. If Mason's back, we got a decent shot. We'd like to see what he can do with a full year under his belt as the starting quarterback. He deserves it. After last year, he deserves it. We don't know if he's even going to be brought back, but they still need a quarterback. But we've been vocal about it. They're not going to do anything crazy at the quarterback position.
No, based on what Rooney and Tomlin have stated at the end of season interviews that they've done, it doesn't come off as they're going to go out there and be aggressive in free agency or even trade for a Justin Fields. Free agency again, they're not going to sign Kirk Cousins. They're not going to sign Russell Wilson.
No.
Rumors are going to be speculating to Steelers,
being linked to this guy and that
Exactly.
guy. But let me tell you, man, and we hope we're wrong, but let me tell you, lower your expectations because they've already made their commitments to Kenny Pickett. They want Mason back, and any and all competition that they're talking about isn't going to be legitimate competition. They're not going to force Kenny on the bench. They're just that denial about the quarterback position. But that still doesn't mean that the position isn't a top need, because it is.
It is.
Very much is, but we already know what their plan is heading into the 2024 season at quarterback. But we still got to mention it. Quarterback is a top need.
Yeah, well, no doubt about it.
I would also say cornerback is a top need. Absolutely.
Still, I mean, JBJ's a top dog. He's the guy, number one corner for the team.
He's gonna
arguably the best defensive back last year.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Oh, easily.
But
on our team.
outside of that, there is truly nobody else. They still have Patrick Peterson, who I'm expecting is to come back for next season, maybe even get a 1-year extension to spread out the cap space.
Yep.
Outside of that, there's nobody else. And I'm not bringing back Levi Wallace.
No, not Levi. Corey Trice is undetermined. I know a lot of Steelers fans are banking on him, but he hasn't even played yet. He's a 7th-round rookie. So there's uncertainty at the cornerback position. I'd also mention not only cornerback, too, obviously JPJ, but a slot corner.
Yes.
I know there's a lot of rumors out there that Shannon Sullivan might be back, but I don't think he's the answer at slot corner. Thought it was a liability in coverage. He made a decent play here and there, but not enough to be brought back as the future slot corner. Those are the two positions they need to revamp in the secondary, is cornerback 2 and slot corner. And they can easily fix that in many ways this offseason. The draft, free agency, there's a lot of names out there.
Mm-hmm.
Along with right tackle, we're hoping cornerback 2 is the move that they make in free agency to solidify that need and give us extra flexibility and maybe even grab a slot corner in the draft because there's tons of them. Tons of them.
Yeah, the cornerback class for free agency is very stacked. So the Steelers got to grab at least one guy. At least that's what I'm hoping.
Yes. So, I mean, cornerback is obviously a big need. We need someone opposite JPJ. Keeping on with the secondary is safety. We need a strong safety. We need a legitimate strong safety. That's not Keanu Neal. That's not DeMonte Casey. That's not Patrick Peterson if they want to move him to safety. We don't have a significant, pure, strong safety. We don't have a Terrell Evans, who might be back. He's a free agent. I would gladly bring him back. He worked well with Minka. He let Minka be Minka.
Yeah.
So I'd love to bring him back. A year away from Pitt, being with the Eagles and then the Titans. Maybe, absence makes the heart grow fonder. I think the Steelers would be interested in bringing him back if he wants to return to the Steel City. But we still need a strong safety. We do. We need someone to play that box role. We do. It's just, last year we knew with Casey and Neal, that wasn't for the long term. That was just a rental for the most part.
Again, fill-ins.
Yeah, exactly.
Fill-in guys at that position.
So
and they just they're not it. They're not it at strong safety pretty much.
And when you look at the defensive backs, and I'm talking corner and safety, the defensive back room in free agency is stacked. Like with the cap increase and the moves that the Steelers could still make to create close to 30 to 40 million in cap space. Think about that. We could really go out and grab another splash in the defensive back room because we need it. Our defensive backs were very disappointing last year. Minka included. We need someone opposite Minka to play that box safety role.
Yeah.
So I'd safety up there. Keeping on with defense, defensive line. Cam Hayward's coming back. He's going to be 35 years old. I mean, he's going to play, I would imagine, a limited role because of his age and because of his injuries. I know he just had surgery, hoping the recovery's going well for him, but he's getting up there in age. He's not the same player he used to be. Keanu Benton is a stud. We all know he's going to be a future core piece in that front seven. Larry Ogunjobi had the most snaps of any defensive lineman last year. But, with his cap hit and his injuries and his age, he's going to play a recurring role, a rotation role.
Because especially with those injuries, although he was able to fight through them, and he has pretty much his whole career.
Yeah.
Eventually they do catch up to you. They do catch up to him.
So even though we have,
so that is a big worry.
So even though we have the three starters, the two defensive ends, the two interior defensive ends, and the D tackle, two of them are aging. They are taking a lot from our cap situation. And frankly, Keanu Benton is our best defensive lineman as of right now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We need someone else opposite. We need someone else to rotate.
You mentioned Hayward and Ogunjobi with them aging. That's what our defensive line is. It's really aging. I feel like we could add more to it. We could get younger at that position, defensive line, get more explosive there because Hayward's not going to be here much longer. And Ogunjobi, I mean, when it comes to after this upcoming season, he might be gone.
Yeah. I would imagine he would be. It's very much similar to the Chuck's contract. When we extended Chuck's,
yeah,
we gave him a decent contract. Thanks for your efforts. Thanks for what you've done. But you knew that in a year or so after the extension that they just weren't going to keep him until the end of his contract because the cap number increases down the line, down the years. So Ogunjobi has a Chuck's-like contract, and we just need someone to fill in defensive line along with Keanu Benton in the future. I'd say defensive line is a dark horse option in day 2.
I don't disagree.
Maybe early day 3.
I don't disagree. And looking at this defensive line draft class, I mean, it's got a lot of potential.
It's got a lot of names.
It does.
So, I mean, defensive line is definitely going to be another one of those that they got to fix because it seems like every year we always get hit with the injury bug in that area. We don't have the depth that we thought we did.
And it's just a thought of thinking long term for the position and for the team.
Yeah.
That's just what they got to do. That's just what they got to consider and think of.
Yeah, because think about this, guys. After the 2024 season, our defensive line group could be without Hayward and Ogunjobi. Thus, we would have Benton and who else? Who else? We got to fill in someone else. We got to think long-term, like you mentioned. We got to bring in someone to rotate with the two aging veterans and just, be the future along with Keanu Benton.
Yeah, and when it comes to our defensive line depth as well, Armon Watts is a expected free agent. He's a guy that we could bring back. Montrevious Adams, he's also expected to hit free agency. I don't know if they bring him back, although he's been the fill-in starter the past couple of years. DeMarvin Leal, he hasn't really taken that next leap being a third rounder a couple years ago.
No, he really has. And Mike Tomlin was critical of him in his end of season interview or a press conference.
So it's like, yeah, defensive line, like you stated, and I agree, is a dark horse option day 2 in the draft, or they could go out there and sign a guy in free agency if they desire to.
Yeah, and adding and filling some of these holes in free agency with some splashes would allow the flexibility to draft a very good defensive lineman that might drop.
Yeah.
There's a lot of names out there in the draft. Number 7, I would put linebacker, inside linebacker. Cole Holcomb's coming off an injury. We don't know exactly how severe it is. Injuries always have an effect on people after the injury.
Especially when it comes to the Steelers at inside linebacker, it's like we can't catch a break at that position.
No, we can't.
I don't know what it is.
The injuries, the player after the injury, Devin Bush. I mean, all these.
Who?
I don't know. One of Colbert's worst trades. Let me just tell you that.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, linebacker is a need. Quan Alexander is coming off an injury as well. He was very good up until the injury. Atlanta Roberts was a stud last year. He'll be back for sure.
Yeah, the pairing of Holcomb, Roberts, and Alexander, they gelled well. They did very good, and I would be more than open to bringing that trio back. I just don't know what the extent of Alexander's recovery is,
or
I don't know,
Holcomb.
or even his injury interest, and come back with the team. So, and just the thought of thinking again long term with the linebacker position,
and not just that, but we don't have the depth.
No, that's showcased later into the season.
Yeah, Mark Robinson is not it. He's not. Miles Jack came out of retirement. What's his name? Came out of retirement.
Blake Martinez, the legit Steeler.
Yeah, literally. We had so many other guys that filled that room.
Who was that dude? Michael Walker.
God.
Yeah.
God, I forgot about him, and then you just made me remember.
Yeah, I apologize.
So
again, linebacker is another one of those big needs.
Yeah.
That they have to consider long term, that they have to look out for to try to fill in. It's just because right now the guys we have, they're good. They've done a very good job. They've done better than the previous linebacker groups that we had in previous years.
Yeah, but we still need that depth. We still need because the injuries always hit us at that position. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a strength and conditioning thing. I don't know if it's just we have bad luck there. We get hit with the injury bug at that position all the time. It just happens.
And we just need that long-term solution.
Yeah.
At that position.
Yeah. So linebacker, absolutely. Inside linebacker. Just to rotate, keep these guys fresh, and to bring in a new, fresh body into that room, man. I think we need it. And lastly, guys, I'll throw this one out there because we have no depth. As of now, we only have 4 wide receivers on the roster. 3 only if Allen Robinson is cut. We need another wide receiver. We don't have a depth guy. We don't have any depth. We don't have a true slot option, even though I wouldn't worry too much about a slot guy because Arthur Smith does not run a lot of 11 personnel. In fact, he was dead last in league in 11 personnel usage.
Yeah, so the third wide receiver option, it's not really going to be too impactful or too big of a need because, he's only going to run 2 wide receivers.
But we still need outside depth. We still need depth regardless, and we're going to need someone that can come in, has reliable hands, is a tenacious blocker with us being run heavy.
Yeah.
We're going to need that body in the wide receiver room, along with the new wide receiver coach. We just need that depth. I think we could use some extra size in that factor. Calvin Austin doesn't have the size. He has the speed that we should definitely utilize. But outside of Pickens and Allen Robinson, who may or may not return, we don't have size.
No, we don't.
We don't have that blocking ability, right? So we're going to need someone that has both of those that we can bring into the wide receiver room.
Yeah. Big time.
Steelers always been known for drafting wide receivers. We could always draft another one sometime somewhere in the draft.
Considering the fact also, because I want to point this out, they didn't select a receiver last year.
No.
So receiver's another one of those positions that they could very well draft. Considering that they missed out because they always drafted wide receiver in the draft. It was like their most consistent position that they drafted.
Yeah, I think last year was the first draft class since 2010 that they didn't draft receiver.
So it's kind of hard for me to see them not select a receiver for the second year in a row. But under Omar Khan, things could change.
Yeah,
things could be different.
He could definitely pick up a wide receiver in free agency. I know there's a lot of names out there. Tyler Boyd's a popular one. With T. Higgins getting the franchise tag, Boyd is definitely out of there. Would he want to come to Pittsburgh? I'd welcome it, but for the right price.
Definitely for the right price.
Very reliable. There's a Noah Brown. There's a what's his name from the Niners?
Juwan Jennings.
Although he's probably going to return because he's a restricted free agent, I think. which means he's exclusive to the 49ers, so he might be brought back under a tender deal,
Yeah.
a one-year tender. So I wouldn't get too high and muddy about that, but there's names out there we can absolutely bring in at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, when it comes to depth, starting capabilities, decent hands, reliability, just size, blocking ability too. You know, there's a plethora of receivers out there in free agency that have, you know, everything that, you know, checks the box for what the Steelers are going to try to look at.
Absolutely. I'd even throw a Josh Reynolds out there. He did good for Detroit until the end.
I would really like Josh Reynolds.
Josh Reynolds is out there. I mean, there's so many other guys. Mac Hollins, who has experience with Arthur Smith.
I would not be surprised by that
He
whatsoever.
has that size. He has good hands. He has that blocking ability. So when you look at wide receivers that they could add, those are what I'm looking most at, is outside capabilities, decent depth, and definitely someone that is an angry blocker, because we need it. And that's what fits Arthur Smith to a T. So, I mean, those are just some names we're going to throw out there. Otherwise, I think they do definitely pick up a wide receiver in free agency.
That is if Robinson were to get cut. If he gets cut, which, you know, they could do that. Just cut your losses with him, save the money. But at the same time, they could either restructure his contract, or they could cut him but bring him back on a cheaper one-year deal.
That's what I would do.
They could do that.
Because he's an outside flexibility receiver. And last year, I mean, he didn't get a lot of targets, but he was always seen as a run blocker. So,
and that aspect, you know, he did a very solid job at that.
He did. I was satisfied with Allen Robinson in that regard. So I think, yeah, that would be probably the best idea there, is cut him, save 10, 11 mil, and then bring him back under a vet minimum contract.
Yeah.
A new contract.
And even if he sticks around, you know, I would still sign a wide receiver. Just improve the depth, you know.
Because we only have 4 as of now. Without anything happening to Allen Robinson, we only have 4 receivers. We're going to need another 1 or 2. We're going to need some camp bodies. We're going to need somebody.
That could be Miles Boykin, you know, Des Fitzpatrick. I believe we gave him a future contract, but, you know, I wouldn't really settle for that. I would look in, if I were the Steelers, I would look in free agency just to test the waters and see if I can bring a guy in.
Yeah. So, yeah, wide receiver is definitely a dark horse signing somewhere in free agency. I think it has to happen. So, if I'm the Steelers, if it's my honest opinion, I think a center insurance policy, a right tackle, a cornerback 2, a potential safety, and wide receiver are most likely the picks. Or not the picks, the signings in free agency.
And one more position I want to throw out there, because we don't have one at the moment, and that's punter.
True.
That's punter. Presley Harvin is no longer here. He wasn't really a great punter. Wasn't very consistent. I don't really see them drafting a punter, although it wouldn't surprise me. But I would just sign a veteran punter, a reliable punter at that.
Yeah.
Just fill that position in. Sign a punter. If you want to draft another punter, you could do that. Or if you want to get an undrafted punter just as competition, you could do that too.
I think that's what they'll do. They'll sign a punter, then they'll bring someone in as an undrafted free agent, and then we'll see what he's capable of.
Yeah.
So I think that's the most likely scenario there. But punter, yes, absolutely, because we don't have one. And they cut their punter for a reason, because they need a new punter.
And we just haven't had a consistent punter. I don't even know how long.
Dude, and it's hurt our defense for so many years, because Harvin can't pin the opposing offense deep.
And that's what we thought we were going to be getting out of Harvin. He was going to be able to pin them deep. He just wasn't consistent at it.
No.
Not one bit.
So, yeah, that's that, man. That, in our opinion, is the Steelers' biggest needs this offseason. We're hoping they nail a majority of these in free agency. I think it's a must. And it would add so much flexibility in the draft to attack some of these other needs early on. Because early on, getting some of these guys like a slot corner or like defensive line or linebacker or center or tackle or whatever, you know, there's a lot of gems there. So, you know, it will just help the Steelers a lot in the long run. But otherwise, let us know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. How you feel about them cutting Mason Cole? Who do you think the Steelers should target in free agency and in the draft list? All know down below. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next one. Here we go, Steelers.
And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later.
Peace!